There's a unique race going on the Space Coast. It's a race against time and the weather, all to preserve some hidden history.
It turns out there's a site that's about 3 acres at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station where early settlers and Native Americans once lived, and it's now an archaeological site.
I love this. So students and archaeologists have teamed up and are digging in. News 6 at 9's Carolina Cardona shows us how they're getting results.
The land that we're standing on is an early prehistoric settlement that was discovered back in the 1800s. Recently, a lot of artifacts like pottery and shells that were used as tools have been dug up by a group of college students. They're part of a collaboration between UCF, USF, and the Air Force Station.
It's incredible, especially since field schools are typically very, very expensive and you have to go somewhere. You usually have to go to Europe or the Middle East or Egypt to do something like that.
But in this case, Ben Squitieri was only 35 minutes away from a unique experience. Along with his anthropology classmates and professors, they're getting results for Cape Canaveral's Air Force Station.
U.S. federal law requires that federal property be maintained and that historic materials, which would include archaeological materials, are protected.
You can see 2 different time periods of the pottery here.
And that's where archaeologists from UCF and USF come in. UCF's archaeology program has been working with the Air Force 45th Space Wing at the station since 2015. They're gathering artifacts and information from 3 different historical sites at the Air Force Base.
The first year we dug a series of shovel tests over the site, and we found out that the shovel test that was here had some of the highest amount of artifacts and cultural material. From this bag of artifacts, we know what time period the site dates to, at least at this level that they're digging. We're going to know what tools they used, what they ate, and a little bit about their subsistence.
The Cape Canaveral Archaeological Project's goal is to help the Air Force Station better understand this land. That way, they can preserve the history before erosion or the passing of time destroys it. Plus, it's giving students hands-on experience they may not otherwise have gotten.
This is really a win-win for Florida schools in general because our Florida schools get students that are exposed to some of the latest in technology.
Dr. Lori Collins is working next to this excavation site, an ancient burial structure made up of shell and soil that includes a mound.
So this is all man-made, constructed in ancient times, and it serves as sort of a monument, if you will, for activities that went on here and burials. We're trying to understand the site using spatial tools like laser scanners that allow us to really document everything in 3 dimensions, and then we're using remote sensing technologies that allow us to not dig but actually look down into the ground and see what might be buried beneath.
Dr. Barber refers to this historical cemetery where the first European settler on the Cape is buried, Mills O'Burnham, who was also the first lighthouse keeper for 30 years.
Thanks to the collaboration between UCF, USF, and the Air Force Station, several of these students will then go on to get full-time jobs in professional archaeology. In Cape Canaveral, I'm Carolina Cardona, News 6 at 9.
Amazing.
That is so
stuff.
cool. And then they get to get that hands-on experience at no additional cost. You know, like that student she interviewed was saying, to get experience like that, most of the time you have to go to Europe or to Egypt. So happening right here in Florida.
Never know what will be found next.
Yeah.
Yes.
And according to some research, unlike many archaeological sites on Florida's west coast, the east coast hasn't been studied as much. So who knows what they'll find out there? Something maybe pricey.
Yes.
Yeah, right.